AITA for packing my wife's bags after her affair partner acted like he owned my house. I'm Anthony, 42, and I'd been married to Celeste for 11 years, long enough to know the sound of her car in the driveway and the exact way she avoided looking at me when she was lying. Most nights, I was the one rinsing coffee mugs before bed, checking the front door lock, and making sure the mortgage payment cleared, so when she started acting like our home was a place she had to escape from, I blamed stress before I blamed betrayal. Our marriage wasn't perfect. I should say that before anyone decides I'm painting myself as some saint blindsided by a monster. Celeste had been telling me for months that I was emotionally unavailable. She said I fixed problems instead of talking about them. She said I remembered the oil change before I remembered to ask how she was feeling. Some of that was fair. I wasn't the kind of husband who wrote long notes or started deep talks at midnight. I was practical, quiet, too quiet sometimes. I showed love by keeping things steady. I made coffee before she woke up. I shoveled the walkway before she stepped outside. I paid bills early because late fees felt like throwing money into a fire. I thought being dependable counted for more than it apparently did. Celeste used to say those complaints with sadness in her voice. Then they changed. They stopped sounding like she wanted me to understand and started sounding like she was building a case against me. One night, while we were eating takeout at the kitchen island, she stared down at her container of noodles and said, "You never make me feel seen." I put my fork down. "Then tell me what you need from me." She gave me this exhausted little laugh, like I had already failed the test by asking. "That's the problem, Anthony. I shouldn't have to teach you how to care." Then she got up and took her food into the living room. That became the pattern. She'd throw out something heavy, then leave before I could respond. If I followed her, I was pressuring her. If I stayed quiet, I was proving her point. I thought we were in one of those ugly middle chapters married people talk about surviving. The phase where the house feels colder than it should, but you keep making coffee and paying the mortgage, assuming you'll eventually turn back toward each other. The part that kept me from seeing the truth sooner was that Celeste still acted married whenever it helped her. She texted me heart emojis in the afternoon. She asked me to grab oat milk and dish soap on my way home. She reminded me about her cousin's barbecue. She sent me a restaurant link and wrote, "Maybe this for our anniversary?" She kissed the side of my head one morning while I was fixing the garbage disposal and said, "Thank you." Seriously. Then, that same night, she slept turned away from me like there was a wall down the center of the bed. She didn't act guilty all the time. That was the problem. She acted normal, just often enough to make me doubt myself. The first real crack came from a credit card statement. I was checking the shared account after the mortgage cleared. That was normal for me. I didn't study every penny like a detective. I just made sure the big things posted correctly and nothing looked strange. A hotel charge looked strange. It wasn't a massive charge. Not some luxury suite with champagne and room service. That almost made it worse. It was ordinary, practical, a one-night stay, posted on a date Celeste had told me she was helping her friend through a bad breakup. I stared at it for a while, waiting for my brain to find a reasonable explanation. Maybe the hotel had a restaurant. Maybe she bought something from a lobby shop. Maybe it was fraud. Maybe I was turning into the paranoid husband she had already started accusing me of being. When she came home that evening, she was carrying one grocery bag after being gone for almost 3 hours. Inside were eggs, bananas, and the wrong kind of coffee creamer. I waited until she put everything away. There's a hotel charge on the shared card from last Thursday. Her hand stopped on the refrigerator door for half a second. Then she closed it too softly. A hotel charge? Yeah. She gave me a blank look. I don't know. Maybe it's a mistake. It's from the night you were with Melissa. Her face changed then. Not dramatically. Not enough that I could point to it and say, "There, that's the lie." It was more like the light went out of her eyes. "Are you seriously interrogating me over a pending charge?" she asked. "It posted. It's not pending." She crossed her arms. "I hate that your first instinct is to interrogate me." "My first instinct was to believe you," I said. "That's why this hurts." Her eyes welled up with tears, and they came fast. Too fast. "You always do this. You take one thing and turn it into proof that I'm some horrible person." I actually apologized that night. Not because I believed her, exactly, but because I wanted to be wrong more than I wanted to be right. I told her maybe the bank had made an error. I told her I would keep an eye on it. She wiped her face and said, "I can't keep living like I'm on trial." That sentence stayed with me because nobody had put her on trial. I had asked one question about one charge on a card with both our names on it. After she went to bed, I checked our shared calendar. I wasn't sneaking into anything. We had used that calendar for years for appointments, family events, bills, and anything that affected both of us. The date of the hotel charge had a blank space where I could have sworn there had been an entry earlier that week. I remembered it because I had seen Melissa on that night and thought, good, she's seeing friends. Maybe that will help. Now it was gone. After that, the small things started connecting. Her phone password had changed. Not unusual on its own. People change passwords. But she also started flipping her phone face down during dinner, even when no notification came in. Grocery runs stretched into 2 and 3 hours. She took calls in the laundry room with the dryer running. She started saying, "I'm just tired," whenever I asked why she seemed far away. One Friday night, I walked into the bedroom, and she snapped her laptop shut so fast the sound cracked through the room. I looked at her. "Everything okay?" She smiled without showing teeth. "Work stuff." I didn't ask another question. I just nodded and went to brush my teeth. In the mirror, I saw my own face and barely recognized it. I looked calm. That scared me more than anger would have. The next morning, I called Graham. Graham has been my closest friend long enough to know when I'm leaving things out. I told him about the hotel charge, the deleted calendar entry, the phone, the long errands, all of it. I expected him to tell me I was overthinking. He didn't. He was quiet for a few seconds, then said, "Don't explode." "I'm not exploding. You were in the stage right before exploding. That's different." I leaned against the kitchen counter and watched Celeste's coffee mug sit untouched beside the sink. So what am I supposed to do? Document. Screenshots. Statements. Doorbell clips if you have them. Anything you can access legitimately. Don't hack anything. Don't threaten anything. Don't give her a scene. I let out a breath. A scene would feel pretty good right now. "Yeah, for 10 minutes, he said. "Then it cost you 6 months. Don't give her a scene. Give your lawyer a file." That became the sentence I repeated in my head whenever I wanted to slam a door or demand her phone. Don't give her a scene. Give your lawyer a file. My sister Tessa noticed something was wrong too. She called a few days later just to check in. I must have sounded flat because she paused mid-conversation and said, "You sound calm in a way that scares me." "I'm fine." "No, you're doing that thing where your voice gets polite." That almost made me laugh. Almost. "I think I'm being lied to," I said. "About what?" "I don't know enough yet." "Anthony, I'm not saying that to be dramatic. I mean, I literally don't know enough yet." Her voice softened. "I'm not saying forgive anything. I'm asking if you're okay." I looked toward the garage door, where Celeste's keys usually hung beside mine. That's because if I stop being calm, I'll do something stupid. Tessa didn't push after that. She only said, "Then stay calm. But don't disappear inside yourself." I tried. A few days later, I checked the doorbell camera. At first, I was only looking for a package that never arrived. I scrolled back through the clips from earlier in the week, half paying attention, until I saw a man standing on my porch. I didn't know his name yet. I only knew he looked too comfortable standing at my front door. He was tall, dark jacket, phone in one hand. He didn't ring the bell. He walked up, looked toward the driveway, checked his phone, then glanced at the door like he was waiting for it to open. After about 30 seconds, he walked away. I watched the clip 3 times. I would have been less bothered if he had knocked. A stranger knocks. A delivery driver rings the bell. A lost person looks confused. This man looked like he'd been told to expect an open door. My first thought was the spare key. We kept one on a small hook inside the garage, not outside under a fake rock like some idiot in a bad movie. It was for emergencies, family, or the occasional time one of us locked ourselves out. I walked to the garage, turned on the light, and looked at the hook. Empty. That's when my chest got hot. I didn't ask Celeste right away. I waited until after dinner. She had made a salad, eaten maybe 4 bites, and spent most of the meal with her phone face down beside her plate. "Where's the spare key?" I asked. Her fork paused. "What?" "The spare key in the garage. It's gone." "I moved it." "Where?" "I don't remember." "You moved our spare key and don't remember where." She put her fork down. "You've been paranoid about security lately." "I moved it because I was tired of hearing about it." "I never said anything about it." "You don't have to say things, Anthony. You have a way of making the whole house feel tense." That was one of her tricks. Take the question and turn it into a diagnosis. I said, and you're becoming very specific with your lies. Her face hardened. You're becoming paranoid. Maybe I was. But paranoia doesn't remove keys from hooks. Paranoia doesn't post hotel charges. Paranoia doesn't create doorbell clips of strange men standing on your porch like they are waiting for permission. That night, Celeste slept turned away from me again. When I asked if we could talk, she whispered, "I'm just tired." I lay awake beside her and understood that tired wasn't an answer anymore. It was a cover. The truth came from her laptop, and not in some clever way. I didn't guess her password. I didn't install anything. I didn't open a private account. She left the laptop open on the kitchen table with a video call window still running in the corner, frozen on an empty room. The screen had dimmed, but not locked. I walked over to close the call because the fan was whining and a synced messaging app was open behind it. The name at the top was Brandon. I froze. There are moments when your brain tries to protect you by refusing to understand what your eyes are seeing. I read the first few lines without breathing. Brandon had written, "Does Anthony know we're already done?" Celeste had replied, "He knows enough. He just likes pretending he still has a wife." My hands went cold. I scrolled only through what was visible. I did not go digging through years of messages. I didn't need years. A few days were enough to destroy 11 years. Celeste told Brandon I had basically abandoned the marriage. She said we had talked about separating. We had not. She said she was only still in the house because I would make things ugly. Then I saw the line that made everything inside me go still. I need the right moment to make Anthony look like the one who ended it. I read it again because part of me wanted the words to rearrange themselves. They didn't. That was when I realized the affair was only half the betrayal. Celeste hadn't just been cheating. She had been rehearsing my role in the story. I was going to be the cold husband, the controlling husband, the man who threw her away when she was already lonely and brave enough to leave. Meanwhile, she was still living in our house, using our accounts, discussing anniversary dinner, and texting me, "Love you" for days earlier because she needed the marriage to look alive until she was ready to bury it. I took pictures of what was visible. I hated myself for how steady my hands were, but I took them. Then I closed the video call, stepped away from the laptop, and went to the garage because I needed to be somewhere that did not feel like her perfume and lies. The financial part came next. Once I had dates from the messages, I went back through the statements. The hotel charge matched one conversation. A rideshare charge matched another. A restaurant payment she had labeled in our budgeting notes as household matched a night she told Brandon she wished they had more time. There was also a small transfer out of the joint account. Not a fortune, not enough to make a dramatic legal thriller out of it, but enough to matter because it was ours. Money we both had access to. Money I had made sure was there for bills, groceries, repairs, boring adult life. It wasn't just that she lied in my bed. She billed parts of the lie to our marriage. I called Graham again. This time, I didn't explain much. I just said, "It's real." He said, "Do you have proof?" "Yes." "Then listen carefully. You can feel everything later. Right now, document. I want her out. I know. I want him nowhere near my house. I know that too. But do it clean. No threats. No lawn full of clothes. No screaming on camera. If she's building a story, you build a timeline." So I did. I made a folder. Then I made subfolders. Timeline, messages, doorbell clips, statements, hotel charge, family chat. I downloaded the doorbell clip. I saved statements. I wrote dates in a plain document with no insults, no speculation, no dramatic language. Just dates, claims, and evidence. On Thursday, she said she was with Melissa. On Thursday, the hotel charged our shared card. On Friday, she texted me, "Love you," at 2:14 p.m. On Saturday, she told Brandon I knew the marriage was over. On Monday, she made an anniversary reservation. On Tuesday, she told Brandon she needed me to look like the one who ended it. This was the part of the story that needed math, dates, and witnesses. I changed what I could legally and reasonably change. I stopped extra transfers into the joint account. I moved my direct deposit to an individual account. I left enough money for household bills that were already due. I did not drain anything. I did not hide anything. I wrote down what I changed and why. Then I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. The folder name came to me while I was staring at the desktop. Before anyone asks me to apologize. The day it all broke open, Celeste came home around 6:30. I know because I heard her car before I saw the headlights. That sound used to relax me. That night, it felt like the last normal sound of my marriage. I had packed 2 suitcases. I didn't throw her things outside. I didn't cut up clothes or break perfume bottles or dump drawers into trash bags. I folded shirts. I packed jeans. I added toiletries, chargers, makeup, the book from her nightstand, and the gray sweater she always wore when she said the house was cold. I put both suitcases inside by the front door. Then I sat in the kitchen with my laptop, my phone, and printed copies of the timeline. Celeste walked in, talking before she even looked up. Can you please tell me why there are no paper towels? I asked you yesterday, Anne. She stopped when she saw the bags. Her eyes moved from the suitcases to me. What is this? I closed the laptop halfway. You're leaving tonight. Her face went pale, then angry. Excuse me. You can explain loneliness from somewhere else. That line hit her. I could see it. For 1 second, her expression wasn't fear or sadness. It was calculation. Then the tears came. Anthony, what are you doing? I'm ending the lie. What lie? I looked at her for a long moment. I wanted to hear her say his name. I wanted, stupidly, for her to choose honesty once it was the only thing left. So I gave her the chance. Tell me the truth, I said. Right now? No performance. No therapy words. No blaming my tone. Just the truth. She pressed a hand to her chest. I don't know what you think you know, but you're scaring me. No, I'm not. You are. You're proving exactly why I couldn't talk to you. There it is. What? The part where my reaction becomes the reason you lied. She wiped at her face. I felt alone in my own marriage. I believe you felt alone. That seemed to surprise her. Then I said, you had a marriage problem. You chose an affair solution. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I opened the laptop and turned it toward her. The timeline was on the screen. No yelling. No name calling. Just dates. She looked at it for maybe 3 seconds before saying, you went through my private messages? You left the thread open on the kitchen table. That's still private. So was our marriage. Her tears stopped. That was the first real silence of the night. I clicked one screenshot and read the line out loud. I need the right moment to make Anthony look like the one who ended it. Her face emptied. I said, that was the moment you ended it. Not tonight. Not the bags. That. She shook her head. I didn't plan for it to happen like this. No. You planned for it to happen with me playing the villain quietly. Her phone was in her hand before I saw her reach for it. She typed fast. Don't bring anyone into this house, I said. She didn't answer. I heard the notification sound when she sent the message. A few seconds later, she said, you can't just kick me out. I'm not pretending this handles the legal side of the house, I said. I have a lawyer appointment. We can deal with that properly. But you are not sleeping next to me tonight after bringing him to my porch and giving him the impression he had access to my home. Her eyes widened. You saw that? There it was again. Not what man. Not, what are you talking about? Just you saw that? 10 minutes later, the doorbell camera chimed. I looked at Celeste. Is that Brandon? She whispered, Anthony, don't. I stood and walked to the front door. I did not open it all the way. I kept one hand on the edge and one foot behind it. Brandon stood on the porch in the same dark jacket from the camera clip. Up close, he looked less mysterious and more like a man who had practiced being righteous in the car. You, Anthony? He asked. You, Brandon? His jaw tightened. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to make sure she's safe. She's behind me. You're on camera. He glanced up at the doorbell, then back at me. Good. Then it can record me saying you can't just kick your wife out because your ego got bruised. Celeste made a small sound behind me. Not enough to stop him. Just enough to let me know she was scared of where this was going. I said, say exactly what she told you before you take one more step toward my house. Brandon gave me a look like he felt sorry for me. She told me what this marriage was. Then say it. Anthony, Celeste said behind me, don't do this. That is not an answer. Brandon looked past me at her. Celeste. She said nothing. So he kept going. She said you two were basically separated. She said you knew it was over. She said she was only still here because you controlled the money and the house and made everything difficult. I turned my head enough to look at Celeste. Did you tell him we were separated? Her lips parted. Nothing. I looked back at Brandon. She made an anniversary reservation last week. His expression flickered. I held up my phone. She texted me, love you 4 days ago. Heart included. She asked me to pick up groceries yesterday. She let the mortgage come out of the account I monitor while telling you I was keeping her trapped. Brandon's confidence thinned. Wait. She told me you two were separated. I know what she told you. I opened the folder on my phone and turned the screen toward him. I did not hand it over. He didn't need to touch anything. He could see enough. This is the hotel charge from the night she told me she was with a friend. This is the ride. This is the restaurant payment labeled as household. This is the doorbell clip of you on my porch without knocking. And this is her message saying she needed the right moment to make me look like the one. Who ended it? Brandon's eyes moved over the screen. Slowly, his posture changed. His shoulders lowered. His mouth tightened, but not with anger at me anymore. He looked at Celeste. You told me this was already handled. Celeste stepped forward. It was complicated. No, I said. She told you a story where I absorbed all the consequences. Brandon looked at me, then at the suitcases behind me. For the first time since he arrived, he seemed to understand he wasn't rescuing a trapped woman from a dead marriage. He had been cast in a scene Celeste thought she could direct. Then my phone started buzzing. Once, twice, 5 times. I looked down and saw Celeste's family group chat lighting up. I had not messaged them. I had not brought them into it. Celeste had. Anthony, what is wrong with you? You don't throw your wife out in the middle of the night. She said you did this over a misunderstanding. Call us now. This is cruel. Celeste stood behind me, crying again, but this time the tears had an audience. I read the messages, then looked at her. You already called them? She said. I needed support. No. You needed witnesses. I typed one message into the group chat. I didn't end my marriage in one night. I ended the lie she had been living in my house. Then I sent the folder link. Before anyone asks me to apologize. Celeste saw the folder name and lunged for my phone. Not violently, but desperate enough that Brandon actually said, Celeste, stop. I stepped back. You invited them into this when you lied to them about me. Her face twisted. You're humiliating me. No, I said. I'm correcting you. The group chat went from explosive to silent, so fast it felt like someone had cut the power. For about 3 minutes, nobody said anything. Brandon stood on the porch, no longer trying to enter. Celeste stood inside the hallway beside her suitcases, breathing hard. I stayed in the doorway because I did not want Brandon in my house, and I did not want Celeste claiming I had blocked her from leaving. Then my phone rang. It was her mother. I answered and put it on speaker. You're on speaker. Celeste is here. Her mother's voice was sharp when she started. Anthony, I don't know what you think gives you the right. Then she stopped. I heard clicking, scrolling, breathing. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Smaller. Celeste, she said. Why did you tell us he threw you out for no reason? Celeste closed her eyes. Mom, he's twisting everything. Her mother said, Is Brandon there? No one answered. Celeste. Yes, Celeste whispered. Her mother's voice cracked, not with sympathy for me exactly, but with the shock of realizing her daughter had used her outrage like a weapon. Why didn't you tell us about him? Celeste started crying harder. Because I knew everyone would judge me before understanding how lonely I was. I almost laughed, but I didn't. Not because it was funny. Because even then, cornered by dates and messages and receipts, she was still reaching for the same rope. Her mother said, Lonely is not the same as honest. That landed harder than anything I had said. Brandon stepped back from the threshold. Celeste noticed immediately. Where are you going? She asked. He looked uncomfortable. I need to think. Her head snapped toward him. Think. I need somewhere to go tonight. He rubbed the back of his neck. You told me this was already handled. It is handled. No, he said, glancing at me. It really isn't. That was the moment his hero act collapsed. He had been ready to stand on my porch and lecture me about cruelty. He was not ready to take Celeste in, be named in a divorce, explain hotel charges, or become responsible for the fallout of the story he had believed because it made him feel important. Celeste looked at him like he had betrayed her. I said, Now you know how it feels when someone sells you a version of reality that benefits them. He did not argue. I turned to Celeste. Here is what happens now. Brandon does not come inside. You can take the bags I packed. You can stay with family, Brandon, a hotel, wherever you choose. Any future communication between us is by text, email, or lawyers. The joint account pays necessary bills only while we handle this properly. I'm not draining anything. I'm not hiding anything. But I'm done funding lies labeled as household expenses. She wiped her face. You don't get to punish me because I was unhappy. I didn't throw you out for being unhappy, I said. I asked you to leave because you made our house part of the lie. This is still my home too. I know there is a legal process. I'm not pretending there isn't. But you are not sleeping beside me tonight, and he is not entering this house. Brandon looked like he wanted to vanish into the porch boards. Celeste's mother was still on speaker. She said, Celeste, come here. Celeste looked humiliated, angry, cornered. For 1 second, I saw the woman I had married under all of it. Not innocent, not suddenly forgivable, just familiar enough to hurt. She picked up one suitcase. Brandon did not move to help her until she glared at him. Then he grabbed the other one like it might explode. Before she stepped outside, she turned back to me. You're really going to end 11 years like this? I said, no. You ended it slowly. I'm just refusing to keep living inside it. She left. The house did not feel peaceful after the door closed. People always describe moments like that like freedom rushes in immediately. It didn't. The house felt huge and ugly and too quiet. There were still 2 plates in the sink from dinner. Her wrong coffee creamer was still in the refrigerator. Her jacket was still on the back of a chair because I had missed it while packing. I stood in the hallway for a long time, listening to nothing. Then I locked the door. The next morning, I went to the lawyer consultation with the folder on a drive and printed copies in a plain envelope. I was careful. I did not walk in demanding revenge. I did not claim I could erase Celeste from everything overnight. I asked what to do correctly. The lawyer flipped through the timeline and said, do not delete anything. Keep communication in writing. Do not drain accounts. Do not make threats. We handle the house through the proper process. I already moved my direct deposit, I said. Left money for bills. Document that. I did. For the first time in weeks, someone looked at my calm and did not mistake it for coldness. You did the right thing by documenting instead of performing, the lawyer said. Divorce paperwork came after that. Not instantly, not dramatically, just through the process. Emails, forms, statements. The slow machinery of ending a life that had once seemed permanent. Celeste tried a few more times to pull me into emotional arguments. One text said, I hope you're proud of turning my family against me. I replied, I sent them what you forced me to defend against. Another said, you're acting like you never hurt me. I replied, I'm willing to discuss my failures in writing with a counselor or lawyer present. I'm not discussing them as an excuse for your affair. After that, she slowed down. Her family changed too. Not into my personal fan club or anything ridiculous. They were still her family. But the attack stopped. Her mother sent one message that simply said, Anthony, I owe you an apology. I reacted before asking questions. I wrote back, thank you. I'm not asking anyone to choose sides. I'm asking not to be lied about. She replied, that is fair. Brandon disappeared from the story almost as fast as he had entered it. I heard from Celeste's brother later that Brandon had needed space once he realized he might be included in legal discussions and family fallout. I didn't celebrate that. I didn't need him ruined. I just needed him off my porch and out of the fantasy where he was the better man because he knew the version of Celeste I was never allowed to question. Tessa came over about a week later with soup I didn't ask for and a look on her face that told me she planned to inspect both the house and me. She found me in the kitchen, wiping down counters that were already clean. You know, she said, setting the container down. Cleaning the same spot 6 times does not count as emotional processing. I leaned on the counter. It's cheaper than therapy. Barely. That got a real laugh out of me. Small, but real. She looked toward the hallway where the suitcases had been. I thought you were being cold. I was. No, she shook her head. I thought you were shutting off because you wanted to hurt her. I didn't realize you were holding yourself together. I looked down at my hands. Cold would have been revenge for revenge's sake. Calm was me refusing to help her hurt me. Tessa's eyes softened. She made you look cruel, because cruel was easier to explain than guilty. That sentence stayed with me. I'm not going to pretend I became some new man overnight. I still wake up sometimes reaching for a routine that doesn't exist anymore. I still find little reminders in stupid places, like a receipt in a drawer or a hair tie behind the couch. I still think about the conversations I avoided and the ways I could have been more present. I can own being quiet. I can own not always knowing how to talk when things got uncomfortable. I can own the fact that stability is not the same as intimacy, And paying bills on time does not replace asking your wife what kind of loneliness she is carrying. But I will not own her decision to cheat. I will not own the hotel charge. I will not own the missing key. I will not own Brandon standing on my porch like he had been invited into a life I was still paying for and trying to save. I will not own her telling people we were separated while she was still texting me hearts and planning an anniversary dinner. And I will not apologize for sending receipts to people she recruited into a smear campaign. Celeste wanted sympathy without accountability. She wanted to leave with a clean story and a dirty timeline. She wanted me to be so shocked, so angry, or so heartbroken that I would hand her the scene she needed. I didn't. I packed the bags. I kept the proof. I set boundaries. I followed the process. And when people came at me with her version of events, I gave them mine with dates attached. She wanted me to be the villain in her escape story. I just made sure everyone saw the receipts. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.